Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sharon, and this is Classy Shades Designs. Today's video comes as a special request for all of the tumbler makers. I'll show you how I created the fabric zipper tumbler using a stainless steel mug. For all you tumbler makers, this video is for you. I took this stainless steel hog cup and I measured the distance of the zipper opening that I wanted to have on my cup by what you see here. This will be a combination of a fabric cup and zipper cup combined, which you generally don't see fabric. You either see glitter or you see fabric in a zipper separated, but never together. At least I hadn't seen them together. So I went ahead and marked the distance of the opening that I wanted using a alcohol ink pen. And once I had that completed, I cut off the excess fabric around the zipper. You want to trim this as close as you can to the zipper itself, so that once you put it on your cup, you will not be able to see any of the excess fabric. I did that on both sides, making sure to trim it as close as possible until I ended up with just this here, the zipper and the zipper pull. Once I had that completed, I took some masking tape and going to the spots where I had previously marked the zipper opening, I masked this off so that I could have the opening I created and marked off correctly. You just want to make sure that when you put your tape down that you lay your tape as smooth as you possibly can. You're not so much worried about having it all the way down to the bottom because your zipper is going to cover a little bit of that, but you just want to make sure that you have it in a nice smooth V format so that your Mod Podge doesn't slide underneath it. I repeated that step for the second side, and this is what I ended up with. Now I'm going to take some white paint, just some acrylic white paint, and I'm going to prime my cup. I'm just priming this area because the rest of the cup will be covered with the fabric and we don't need to prime it. Now I am priming because I will use a lighter glitter, and I think that it looks better with a primer underneath it instead of using the stainless steel cup without primer. On this step, you do want to prime it twice or put 2 coats of paint on it. Now I'm doing this inside instead of taking it outside to spray paint because it's cold in Indiana and the temperature will not allow it to dry as fast as I want it to. So once I have this painted on as smooth as I can get it, and you see me waving, smoothing out the lines here, I'll let it dry and repeat this step twice, and then we'll come back and we'll glitter it. Now that our primer is dried, I'm taking the Mod Podge and I'm going to spread the Mod Podge out the same way that we did the primer inside the tape that we mask off. But this time with the Mod Podge, you want to make sure that you spread it on thin enough and thick enough, which is kind of a hard call, and it's hard to see on this white screen. I do apologize for that. But you don't want any lines to be there. You want it to be as smooth and as even as it possibly can be, even if you have to wipe off some off your brush, because any lumps and clumps that are there will show up underneath your glitter. So we really want to focus on making sure we get a nice even layer of Mod Podge onto the cup, covering up the primer. Now that we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and fix the camera here so you can see a different angle, and we'll start pouring our glitter onto the Mod Podged area. Now I am using a really pretty iridescent purple that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. No, I think I actually got this from Michael's, and it is the Recollections Muse. I believe that's the color of it, Recollection Muse. And so I'm just going to sprinkle this on here and make sure I cover all of those areas with Mod Podge fairly well and allow it to dry. So I'm going to repeat this step after this dries. I'll come back and I'll do this one more time. What I like to do is press it in a little bit to make sure that it's gotten good coverage onto the first layer of Mod Podge, and then pour extras where I see there's some gaps at. Once I've gotten this covered, again, like I said, we're going to go ahead and let this dry, and we'll do the second step. I will not do the second time Mod Podging on camera. When I come back, it'll be complete. Now, I've done steps 1 and 2, and I did a third layer of Mod Podge on top of it, which you can see kind of gives it a little white film here. That's alright. And now what I'm doing is I'm using my X-Acto knife to cut a trimming off, to take the trim off, to remove it. I allowed it to sit a little longer, and so the Mod Podge kind of dried on the tape. And in order to get it off a smooth, clear line, I'm just using my X-Acto knife to cut it, and then I'll peel the tape back. When peeling the tape, you want to make sure to pull down and away from your Mod Podge glitter so that it doesn't pull it up. And you should end up with something similar to this. Now, taking my fabric that I picked up from Walmart for 97 cents, I'm going to go ahead and do this generic measuring and just cut out what I need. I will be cutting out a little excess because of the way I want to do my stripes on the cup. But you guys know me. If you've watched any of my videos, I make it all work. You can measure it if you want to. You can measure the diameter of the cup and see how it works for you. But for me, I just go ahead and do it the easiest way that works out on my behalf. And this is it. Okay, so I am going to fit this because I want my stripes to be horizontal around the cup, but I don't want them to run uphill or downhill. So I'm going to cut the fabric so that it is cut along the V shape that I have the purple glitter in. And I'm just going to make sure that it fits so that the stripes will be going evenly around the cup. I kind of think I might, I don't know, we'll see. But I just want the stripes to go horizontal around the cup, and I want them to be perfectly straight. So this looks like it might work for us. Looks like I've got it cut pretty even. I think things will work going it this way, so let's try it here. What we're going to do next is grab your Mod Podge, because now you're going to glue the fabric onto the cup using your Mod Podge. And again, with this step, you want to, and I just took a big flat brush to help smooth this out, but with this step, you want to make sure that your Mod Podge is as smooth as it can be, because any lumps and bumps will show through the fabric, especially since this fabric is a white fabric with a soft gray sheen to it. Any lumps that we have will be able to show through. You also want to put on a thick enough layer that the fabric will adhere to the Mod Podge. So I'm just making sure that I've got it good and smoothed out, and then I will roll the fabric onto the Mod Podge, making sure to line the top of it up so that your stripes are laying the way that you want. Now you can work with this pretty good before the Mod Podge dries to the fabric. It has some give to it, so you can move it around if you need to. Don't feel too bad about making sure you smooth it out with your hands and pull and tug. The fabric, as it gets wet from the Mod Podge, will give you a little bit of ease and tug room to it, but you do want to make sure that your fabric is laying smooth on your cup. That is the key thing. If I can not repeat that enough, I can't say it enough. Make sure that your fabric is laying smooth on your cup. And as you work around the cup, then we'll just continue to add more Mod Podge, smoothing it out, adding Mod Podge on the top of the fabric and on the bottom. And you won't have too much Mod Podge on this, I promise you. It might look like we're putting a lot on here, but it really is not a lot. You just want it to be smooth. So I just kept pulling and tugging to make sure that I had the fabric laying across it smooth, and I Mod Podged it all the way to about halfway to the back of the cup, so that we could then work on just one half at a time. Because of the way we want our stripes, we only want to make it one half at a time, because it will give us the perfect horizontal lines. And just keep smoothing it out and pulling it in, and making sure that you get your fabric straight onto the cup. Because the top is larger than the bottom, you will have what looks like excess, but if you just work it like we're doing here, it will work out fine. Now you see I have a gap in the back because again, the top is larger than the back, so it gave us a gap, and I'm just going to cut a seam up the back of it as even and straight as I can get it, because This will help us to make sure that all the lines and the stripes are even and that everything lines up perfectly. And of course, it gives us the opportunity to work in smaller sections and get them just the way we want. So let's go ahead and finish Mod Podging this part, and then I'll show you what we're going to do on the second half. Okay, for the right side of the cup, we're going to do the exact same things. We will cut the fabric at an angle. The piece that we have left where we cut off from the middle, we're going to just smooth this edge out and cut it at an angle, and we'll glue it onto the cup the exact same way, just the opposite side. Alright, so now we're at the back and we want to make sure that our lines are straight. So we're going to just, since the glue is not completely dry, we have opportunity to work with it. It has some give to it. So we're going to make sure that our stripes are first connected at the top, making sure that they line up as perfectly or as close as you can get them, and just work with it to pull them to make sure they're pretty even. I'm more concerned about making sure that I don't lose the line at my glitter and that I get those stripes straight. I don't want them to go uphill or run downhill. So you can see me, I'm tugging it and it's working. It's actually going with me, but I know that I'm going to have a gap at the back because the bottom is smaller than the top. Right now I'm making sure that they line up in the front. I'm not so worried about the front being closed completely because our zipper will cover it up, but we do want to make sure that our stripes are going the right direction. And as you can see, I'm ending up with a lot of fabric overlap on the back toward the bottom and hardly any fabric overlap on the top. My Mod Podge is drying up a little bit quicker than I wanted to, so I'm going to just wet it a little bit more here so that we can continue working on it until we get our stripes where we want them, because it is so important to me that these stripes are right. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say that, like, hey, I want the stripes right. I don't want them going uphill or downhill. Anyway, we'll just keep working it until we can get it together. They're starting to come together. It's looking good. The fabric is stretched and I'm getting it pretty even here where I'm happy, where I'm getting satisfied. I'm satisfied with what we have. Now let's go ahead and deal with this bottom. Okay, I have all this excess fabric. I can't leave this like this because if I do, once we put the epoxy on it, that will show. So I think what I'm going to do is make sure that I have a straight edge and cut it. One of the ways that I've seen on another YouTube video when I've watched different people doing fabric cups before is I saw a lady take a piece of washi tape and made sure that the washi tape helped give her straight lines. So I'm going to do that. Using this washi tape, I laid out as even as I could across the back of it, and now I'm just going to trim along the washi tape to cut myself a straight line. And if I did this right at the end of trimming this, I should have a fairly even line, and my stripes should match up with each other. And this is so hard to cut this while I'm on filming on camera, trying not to cover up the vision for you guys, the visual for you guys, and doing it backwards and left-handed. Lord help me. But anyway, you get the gist. So I'm just going to trim this up and then I'll be back. Okay, so I got it all trimmed up. I have it even across here. I've pulled the tape off of it, and now what I'm doing is just Mod Podging the seams so that I make sure it's really got a good adhesive seal on it and that they line up. I'm pretty satisfied with this. It's probably as well as I can get it with the stripes, and I would have to pick the hardest fabric to work with doing this for my very first time. But I am happy with what I have, and I'm just going to keep on working it and making sure that it, you know, as you work with it, it gets easier. but we're going to make sure that it's all glued down and stuck down. So you can see here I cut the excess off the bottom, folded it down and glued it all down, and then just took a piece of fabric that I cut a circle out of and put it on the bottom to give the bottom of it a very good finish look. I had something in my Mod Podge and it got onto my cup, so I'm just getting that off right here. But I think it's looking good so far, so I'm going to go ahead and finish Mod Podging the entire cup to give it a... What the heck did I get on here? Oh, my Mod Podge must have had some dried up Mod Podge or something in it. I don't know. But we don't want that on there. Okay. Got it. So let's go ahead and Mod Podge the entire thing to put a final coat of sealant on it. And you really want to make sure that all the fabric is covered in Mod Podge. You run a really heavy thick layer of this on here. If you don't get this covered well, when you go to epoxy it, the epoxy will shine through the fabric and it'll kind of make it look like you have oil slicks in your fabric. So you want to make sure that you get a very good coating of Mod Podge on it, and it becomes a protected sealant for you, making sure that your Mod Podge, your epoxy doesn't get through onto the fabric. Okay, so I let that dry overnight, and here is what the cup looked like the next day. We've got some good clean lines that are sealed, very nice. I'm happy with it. Our stripes are going around the cup evenly. I have the excess across the top that we now need to go ahead and cut off, so let's just work on that and then we'll move on to the next step. I'm going to go ahead and take my Cricut scissors because I think they're small enough to help me trim this. And this fabric now feels kind of like cutting paper because it's got so much Mod Podge on it. It's really stiff and thick, and so it's cutting better than I thought it would. The problem that I'm running into is making sure that I don't cut the cup with my scissors, and so we'll just go ahead and trim all of this off so that we can have a nice clean edge. This actually is for my first fabric cup. I'm kind of falling in love with this. Now I'm using some E6000, but the kind that I'm using is actually for jewelry because it has a fast drying agent. And I'm just going to take the zipper that we had cut the excess fabric off of and lay it over the seam in the front and glue it down, and then I'll glue the open zipper portions on the part where the fabric and the glitter actually meet, so it makes it look like when you're unzipping a shirt that you see the shirt underneath it. This is really, it's turning out well. I'm happy. I'd be happier if I don't drop the cup. But hey, if you didn't have any failed or any errors, it wouldn't be crafting, right? So that's already kind of dry. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part, and let me make sure I have the zipper so that it's covering up the opening here. Yeah, this is about where I think I want it to be, and that way I know that it's covering up where the fabric meets together in the end. I don't want it too far, but right there is perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of this down. And so this is what it looks like. It does have quite a few steps to it, but it is so worth it. The reward is, the payoff is just worth it. I see right here that I need to hit this spot with a little bit more glue or trim it a little bit better, but this is beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put my decals on it once I cut them on my Cricut, and I'll put the epoxy over it. For cup makers, if you have any questions, leave me some comments or questions down below, and I'll try to get them answered for you. And here is what it looks like after I had it totally complete. I'm so glad to have this cup in my inventory and to be able to offer this in Classy Shade Designs. You can customize this cup and have your name put on it, any fabric that you want. It's just a beautiful tumbler, your choice. And when you look at it, You can't even really see the seam on the back of it. So I am very pleased with how this came out. Well, leave me a comment down below, you guys. Thank you so much for watching my first cup video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, stay classy.